I'm wearing black today because I'm going to talk about depression. And speaking of depression, look at this. Isn't that depressing? Some of you know that I have to glue my hair down sometimes before I do these videos. Come on, stay down, you slugging thing. Ah, well, so I've got a pompadour today. How depressing is that? Life could be worse. Anyways, I thought I'd talk about depression because I just had lunch. And that'll make sense in a moment. I've had problems with depression off and on during my life, especially when I was in my teenage years. That's when it came on. And I didn't understand it back then. I understood it directly. Eventually, rather, I got my master's degree in counseling psychology and with an emphasis in Jungian depth psychology, which I had a lot of fun with at times. I enjoyed the depth psychology because of working with archetypes and trying to get down to the foundation of what's really going on in a person's life. I'll talk more about that in a minute. I used to act up sometimes too. Come into class one day and I said, guys, did you read that article in Psychology Today, which everybody always laughed at, Psychology Today, about Carl Jung having a identity crisis in his old age? And they knew I would occasionally pull these stunts, so they didn't know what I was at. Yeah. He thought he was Maurice Chevalier. So they knew I was up to something. I said, he'd go around the asylum singing, I'm glad I'm not young anymore. They knew I was joking. That was me. I was always having fun. Anyways. And I was good with the psychology too, because I understood a lot. When I would work with a client, I would seek a way of building a bridge between the client and myself. I used to call it getting in there, getting into their consciousness, their psyche somehow, and finding a link. I did it once I was working with a gang member, a violent gang member. He could be violent. He'd actually done time in prison for beating up somebody so badly that he nearly killed him. Young guy, good looking, small, not heavy, not like he's a bodybuilder, but evidently he was strong and fast and knew how to fight. Anyways, I was trying to find a connection to him. And he was the head of his gang. He was the leader of his gang. And I said to him one day, I said, you're a notch above your gang and you know it. And not just physically, not just because you're the leader, but it's something like intellectual. You know you're better than they are. And he kind of looked at me because he knew I had seen something, but he wasn't sure. And he finally said, why do you say that? And I said to him, because you don't have any tattoos. And he'd come in with a short t-shirt on or a tank top. I could see he had no tattoos, but I could see. But see, I guessed it was the tattoos. See, if he had gotten the tattoos, like gang members do, that would have brought him down equal with his gang. But by not getting the tattoos, that just put him that notch above. And that's what established the link. He knew when I saw no tattoos that I knew what was going on up here. And we were able to work together pretty well. He was a young guy, good looking, should have no problems meeting girls, but I don't know what the issue was. But he was trying to find, the right girl, because he himself was a bit of an intellectual. He liked to read and read good books. He read a lot of books. And I said to him one day, I said, you read, why not sign up for a literature course at the local community college? They're very inexpensive, these courses. You'll be in a class with other students, females, who like to read. He did. That's how he met his girlfriend. He was kind of fun. I had another guy that was kind of fun to work with too. He was, speaking of archetypes, he was kind of difficult to describe. He worked for his father sometimes, and sometimes he didn't. He would work for his father for a while. He'd get pissed off at his father, and he'd go work for somebody else, typically the competition, stay with them for a while, and then he'd come back, work for his father, stay for a while, get pissed off, go to back and forth. And finally I said to him one day, I said, I'm seeing this like prodigal son thing. It was the archetype that you keep coming back to your father wanting to be celebrated home, but you never find what you want. So I asked him one day, he had this prospect of a job down in Los Angeles. And I learned working with clients that you try to find the benefit. There's usually some benefit. Why do they continue in this repetitive behavior? What's the benefit to them? It's like alcoholics or drug abusers, substance abusers. They know it's not good for them. They know they're killing themselves. But why do they continue in this process? For some of them, the only benefit is that the alcohol could be their best friend, or it could ease pain. Maybe they were sexually abused when they were young, something, self-medicating, whatever. You look for the benefit. So I asked him, I said, you got this prospect for a job down in Los Angeles. They offered him the job. He hadn't decided to take it yet. I said, what if you take this job? What's in it for you? See, I'm looking for the benefit. What's in it for you? He said, I get to say screw you to my old man. I said, well, that's your old man, but what about you personally? What do you personally gain from it? The personal satisfaction of saying screw you to my old man. So I knew that wasn't going to work. So I said to him, okay, you get the job down in Los Angeles. You take the job, you go to work down there, you say screw you to your old man. But you still got this job down in Los Angeles. If you stay in that job, what's the benefit for you? What's in it for you? And you could see this light all of a sudden come on behind his eyes. I'll make more money. I can marry my girlfriend. And it was like the first time in his life, I'm sure not the only time, but it was like the first time in a long time that he thought of himself without his father being the most important issue of that thought. Dismiss the father and just think about himself. And when he came in for his next session, the next week, he said, this is our last session, I'm done. He worked it out. He figured it out that he could exclude his father. Every issue doesn't have to be about his father. He can think about himself once in a while. He can think about his girlfriend, marrying his girlfriend, whatever it might be. He didn't take the job in Los Angeles. He actually got an even better job locally. But I could tell he had worked it out and he was going to be fine. And he never came back for a follow-up session. He worked it out. Anyways, getting back to the depression. One of the things that I wanted to mention, Robert Johnson's book, Understanding Masculine Psychology. There was an important chapter in this book that when I read it, I just like, bang, that's exactly what it was. Adolescence is when you're discovering the world. Your perception all of a sudden opens up and you realize the entire world isn't your mom and dad and the home and the backyard and your friends in the neighborhood. All of a sudden there's a world out there. And it isn't always as pleasant as your mom and dad and your home and your backyard and your friends in your neighborhood, right? And so for some, there's this Fisher King wound that he uses the example of the Fisher King wound, that first wounding when you discover this not so pretty world, at times a painful world. That's what started me on the road. But I learned something else. When I say the road, understanding psychology, understanding depression. Something else I discovered along the way too, that when I was young, I mean, how many kids like vegetables, right? I didn't care for vegetables. But as I grew older, I started to really like vegetables. I love Brussels sprouts now. I love broccoli. Right? Try to get me to eat broccoli when I was a kid. And Brussels sprouts, I'd rather eat roadkill when I was a kid. I didn't. Well, I got to tell you this. Hide this from your kids. When I was a little kid, I'm talking about 6, 7, 8 years old, sometimes you couldn't always get gum. Your parents wouldn't buy you gum. But if you knew where to look, you could chisel it off of a sidewalk or a street and have some gum to chew. I did that. Okay. I survived. The things kids get into, huh? Okay. Anyways, as I got older, I learned to like vegetables. And I can always tell when I don't eat enough vegetables. Now, I can't prescribe this for anybody. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed nutritionist. But if I don't eat enough vegetables, I can feel the depression in the background. It's way back there. I don't give into it. If I give into it, if I immerse myself in it, and sometimes it does feel good to immerse ourselves in emotion. We enjoy feeling emotions sometimes, even if it's sad emotions. I mean, how many of you have cried through the ending of An Affair to Remember with Cary Grant and Deborah Carr when he realizes that she was the one that the picture of that shawl went to, right? Touching film. Anyways, we like sometimes to give in to those feelings, and it feels good to emote sometimes in those ways. I don't let myself give in to that depression when it's back there. I know better. Don't wallow in it. But if it's back there, I know it's because I haven't eaten my vegetables. And I don't know what the connection is. I understand physiological psychology, biopsych. You have these neurons all over your body, right? And they're not directly connected to each other, hardwired. There's a gap between them called a synapse. And if this guy wants to communicate with this guy will release a substance into that gap. It gets to the other side. This one says, oh, okay, and carries on the message, right? It's tiny, the gap. I think it's like 1/50th the width of a hair. So it's really small, measured in angstroms or something. But the substance that goes in there is called a neurotransmitter. There's lots of different ones that your body uses, adrenaline, noradrenaline, so forth. One reason why people get addicted to nicotine is there's a nicotinic receptor in your system. And when you start smoking, you supply your body with the nicotine that it wants. And if you smoke for a while, your body stops producing the nicotine-like substance neurotransmitter. So if you stop smoking, well, this guy isn't producing the neurotransmitter. It isn't available in your blood. All of a sudden, the system starts to fall down, and you start feeling sluggish. You reach for the next cigarette that provides the neurotransmitter, the nicotine. You're working again. So anyways, the only connection I can make to vegetables is maybe having the right balance of nutrition in my body keeps all those neurotransmitters working right. I mean, I would rather be addicted to vegetables than alcohol or cigarettes, neither of which I'm addicted to, but never have been, never did smoke. But I find that, like this week, I could just feel it was back there, and I said, oh, it's time to go get more vegetables. And I did. I walked to the store this morning. I bought some stuff to make salad. I make a salad with romaine lettuce, spinach, some carrot, tomatoes, and some pear. I like a little bit of sweetness. I buy one of those Anjou pears, and I just use a vegetable peeler and flake the things into my salad. And then for protein, I had some chicken wings with my lunch, a few chicken wings. So I know that they haven't kicked in yet, but by the end of today, I'll be feeling perfectly normal again. That depression, if it still is there, it'll be so far back, I won't even see it anymore. I won't even be aware of it. If I stay with my vegetables and eat vegetables each day, like I said, I can't prescribe it, but if you feel like experimenting, vegetables aren't going to hurt you. That's what helps me, and that's what has been very successful at helping me to stave off, keep at a safe distance, that depression.